Hello and welcome to TempWorks training. In this section, we will introduce and discuss the Survey Builder in HRCenter administration. This training will cover all questions posed within the related quiz. Please take the quiz immediately after the training. All right, let's begin. In our previous training, we focused on the Form Builder and how in order for forms to be available in workflows, we have to start all the way down here. Step 1 is to build that form in Form Builder. Then we turn that form into a page and add it to a workflow. We're going to follow a very similar process for surveys. We're first going to build the survey, then we're going to turn the survey into a page, and then if we so choose, we can attach that survey to a workflow or always just assign it out as an additional page to an employee. To begin, I'm going to go to the survey section. Before we do create a new survey, let's talk about when it would be appropriate or a good choice to create a survey. Surveys are great for things like personality quizzes, a math quiz, a vocabulary exam, maybe a safety quiz. Perhaps you want them to watch a video and then take a quiz. That's a perfect example of when a survey would be appropriate, because a survey is a custom list of questions not included in our info pages. Let's go ahead and click that new button so we can create our own custom survey. After selecting new, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom and there is my new survey. We'll go ahead and select that survey to name it. I'll be making a personality quiz today. The display name is, of course, what displays out to the applicant. The private name is how we're going to describe it here. And for me, this will not be a scored test. I'm a pretty save happy person, so I'm going to go ahead and save before I add a group to this survey. Now, when we think about groups, think about different sections of a quiz. So a good example of this would be a math quiz. You might have a group for addition, another one for subtraction, another one for multiplication and division. In my personality quiz, I'm going to make a group for word choice, where my applicants choose a word that best or least describes them. So my group name will be word choice. And I'm going to include an instruction here. So we have our instruction. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the first question to our word choice group of our personality quiz. So my first question, which word best describes you? You'll see that I have the option to make the question required and to reject an incorrect answer. So if it's required, it means that that applicant's not going to be able to submit the survey until they've answered this question. If they choose an incorrect answer, it could reject the applicant. So that would be the end of the workflow for that employee. Once they fail the survey, if there were additional pages as a part of the workflow or the step, they would not be able to complete them. Just like in the form builder, I'm going to be very careful about the answer type that I choose here. If I were to choose a checkbox, an applicant would be able to choose more than one word that describes them. If I just want them to pick the word that best describes them, I'm going to go with the radio box option. If I was looking to elicit a free text response, like tell me what word best describes you, maybe I'd want them to type that into a text area or a text box. We'll go ahead and choose the radio option for today and add our answers. Great, I have my first question, my first answer. Now, as I stated in my instructions, there is no right or wrong answer, so none of these are going to necessarily be correct or incorrect. This data ID dropdown tends to throw a lot of users off because it is required. We have to pick a data ID, and the data ID for every single question has to technically be different. But none of these really describe the question that I'm asking. None of these fit what word best describes you. And the reality is, the survey builder really isn't doing anything with this information for most users. To elaborate, the data ID field is actively used when clients have one of our technical TempWorks team members build a custom post-fill procedure to send information from the survey back to Enterprise. So in this example, we're building a survey that does not have any custom post-fill procedures. So I do have to select something, but nothing's going to happen with that information. Once I'm done creating that question, we'll go ahead and add another question to my survey. This time, we'll ask applicants which word least describes them. And again, I'm going to use the radio option for my answers. You'll also see here that in the question and answer section, we have this value of answer if different than text. We have an example of this here, but before we go ahead and take a look at that example, let me first just make sure that I change my data ID. So right now we have it as certifications description. I'm just going to update that to military experience because, as I mentioned earlier, two data IDs can never be the same in any one survey, even though we're really not using this information for anything. Perfect, and we can always come back and add more questions to that personality quiz. If we take a look at our acknowledgement survey, this is what I have as my example. We'll see that the acknowledgement survey only contains one question. It is required, and it does reject applicants if they answer incorrectly. Here, we've said if they agree, the value of the answer is 10, and if they disagree, then the value of the answer is 0. In Enterprise, one of our wonderful employees, Will Rogers, has recently completed that survey. So if we go into the integration section of his employee record and HRCenter, we're going to see that the survey acknowledgement has been marked as completed, but we see that the question was answered incorrectly with the answer of 0. And in fact, if I double click, there we see that he answered with the value of 0, which is our code for he disagreed. And in fact, if we go to the document section of Will's employee record, when we look at the acknowledgement, which has now been saved as a PDF to his employee record, we're seeing that he did list that he was disagreeing to the acknowledgement. So going back out into our survey builder here, I'm not going to worry about setting values to the answers. We're just going to go back and find our personality quiz, and let's continue to add to our quiz here. Now, suppose I'm done creating this word choice group. To add a second group, I'm just going to select to add a group. And I'm going to copy my instructions here, and we're going to use that for our new group as well. And for this group, I'm going to call it fill in the blank. We'll add our instruction, and let's select to add a question. So my first question is going to be, I'm going to ask them to fill in the blank. I am blank late to appointments. We'll again go with our radio type dropdown, and I'll give them the options to say they are never late to appointments, they are almost never late to appointments, they are sometimes late to appointments, almost always late to appointments, and always late to appointments. Let's add one more question just so we can have a nice full group. Perfect. So my survey now contains 2 groups and a total of 4 questions. Before I save, again, I have to make sure I'm choosing a different data ID. I'm pretty boring. I just always choose the next one down the list just to keep it simple so I don't have to worry about which one I selected. We'll go ahead and save, and my personality quiz is now done. So step 1 is complete. We've built the survey in Survey Builder. My next step is going to be to turn this into a page. So to do that, we'll hop into that Pages section, and I'm going to select New in the upper right-hand corner. Here we're going to make our personality quiz. And for the page type, we're going to use our custom question and answer formatted block. We've made them in the surveys pages. I'll select Next to move on to our second step. So this is showing all of the surveys that have been built over in our little survey builder over here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Since it's the most recent one that I made, it's going to be listed right there. Again, adding a localization would be to say if we've created a quiz in Spanish. A good example of that would be our math test, which has been designed in Spanish. We'll note that the destination is for this to be a PDF saved to the employee's record in that document section. We'll click Next again, and now I'm going to choose the document type that I want this to be saved to. So we're going to say documentation. I don't want to force anybody to complete correct answers in order to complete the quiz. In fact, in our example, there really aren't any right answers, but this is a way that you could force people to answer the questions correctly in order for them to be able to submit that quiz. I do want this to be saved as a PDF on our employee's record, so I will choose PDF. And just like with Form Builder, we don't have to worry about these custom post-fill and pre-fill procedures. These are going to be used almost exclusively by our internal TempWorks technical team. We'll select Next again, and we can click to finish. Perfect. Let's go ahead and assign this survey out to an employee to see how it looks. Instead of Will Rogers, let's use our other favorite employee, William Evans. So to assign out that survey, I'm just going to expand that Actions menu and assign the additional HRCenter page. We'll select the workflow of additional pages, choose the language of English, and click Next. Perfect. There is our personality quiz. We'll select the plus icon to assign that out to William and click to finish. Excellent. So now William here goes out to HRCenter, and he is going to log in with his username and password. And we'll complete that personality quiz. Select to get started, and here are my questions and answers. So for my word choice, we see our instructions, and there we will choose the word that best describes us. And we will say we are almost never late to appointments, and we almost always like to be engaged in fast-paced work. That's my whole survey. We click to save and continue and submit. And now when we go back into Enterprise, in the document section of William's employee record, we see the personality quiz saved, and pulling that shows us everything that good old Will here answered for us. We will also see this information stored within the Integrations HRCenter page of Will's record. And there's our answers. And that is how you build and design a survey in HRCenter Admin. Please take the quiz before moving on to the next training. Thank you.